Hey there guys, this is TC Made with TC Gaming. This is a quick tutorial video to explain the concept of basic NPC quote-unquote AI. I don't really consider this to be true artificial intelligence because really all you're doing is letting the character select a couple of things that are going to happen, and it just aimlessly wanders around. It doesn't really make any true intelligent decisions. So artificial intelligence might be a little bit of a leap for this, but it's the common way that this is referred to, and it's at least a basic starting point for it. What we're shooting for is that we're going to have random characters, not necessarily random characters, but characters in our level that are going to randomly walk around just to be background fodder. And eventually we would put things in like character detection, that they see a player and then do some interaction with them based on that. But this is the very basics of I've created an NPC and they're wandering around. And again, this is based on a viewer's request for some simple information regarding this. So without dragging this out too far, I'm going to go ahead and get started. What the end result of this would look like is here's my playable character, and you can see that I've got a random character walking around here, and he's just going to wander around, wait for a little bit, and then wander off to someplace else. Okay? That's what each of these characters will do. So that guy's randomly right. So that's what we're shooting for. And the way that we do this is, you see I have a couple of these guys here. And what I did is I just go to my third person character. And this one has a controller and everything in it. This is what we use as players to wander around in our levels and do our things. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to right click on that third person character and say duplicate. And when we do that, it's going to give us a naming spot here. So I'm going to go NPC 3 because I already had an NPC 1 and 2. And now it's just an exact duplicate of my third person character. If I were to go in here and look at this, identical, even the mesh is the same. If I go in here to the viewport on the mesh. So the first thing we want to do is we want to pick what character we're randomly going to be walking around in here. And we just go to our skeletal mesh and we go and pick one that's compatible with our skeleton. If you watched any of my previous videos, you know how to do this for the retargeting and everything. And we want to make sure we have an animation class, and we do have one because we had retargeted our skeletal assets onto a common skeleton in a previous video. So I'm using the Infinity Blades characters. This guy's name is Ram here. And what we're going to do is he's going to be our NPC 3. I'll just drag him out into the level somewhere. And you can use these little buttons here to rotate your character around. So I'm just going to randomly face him. And when I go to play, what you'll find out is he will just stand around because he thinks he's also supposed to be possessed by a player instead of by AI. And here's what we're going to do to fix that. If I go into my NPC3 character, the first thing I want to do is, after I've changed my mesh and everything, I actually should have gone in here. I want to delete this camera. The follow camera can be deleted, and the camera boom can be deleted because we're not using those for this character. In our event graph, we're actually not going to use any of these inputs. You can just highlight all those and then just hit the delete key and basically wipe that out. Now, I have already built this basic AI in one of these other characters, and so I'm going to show you how that is. But first I'm just going to highlight it from here, Control C to copy, and I'm going to go into NPC 3. I'm going to go in here and Control V to paste, and then I'm going to blow it up and explain it to you a little bit. And I want to set this large enough that you can actually see it as I'm going through this, because what you're going to want to do is put down the same thing that I have here to at least get you started the way that this is. This is a little disorganized, but what we're basically doing is I have an event begin play. So this is going to fire when we start the game. Coming off of that node, we would drag, you left click and drag a pin out and drop it. And when you do, it's going to ask you what you want to connect to. So on here, we're going to have, when the event begin play fires, we're going to have our AI move to, and it's going to say, what's the destination? Well, the destination of that movement is going to be a random location, which is defined by get random reachable point in radius. And it's going to ask you for an origin. Starting from where? Well, from the target of a self, which is the internal NPC 3 here. It's going to get his current location in the world, and then it's going to return that value back as the origin. And this radius value specifies how far, you can read right there, it says generates a random location that's reachable from a given origin location. Well, the origin location is wherever I'm currently standing, and in this case I'm just looking 30,000 as my radius, and if I can find a navigable point that I can reach in that radius, that's what I'm going to set as my destination randomly, and then I'm going to pass that to my AI. When he has a location there, he's going to start going, and it's also going to ask you what your object is. Well, the object is self, so you just drag off these. And again, the way that this blueprint scripting works, if you've never done it before, you just drag off here, it gives you a node, and when you release, it's going to give you a box where you can type in whatever you're looking for. So if you read these names: event begin play, AI move to, get random reachable point and radius, get actor location, self. And then this one up here is every time we have an event tick, which is a cycle in the game, it just goes through. Every time the event tick fires, we want that to create a delay of some random duration between 5 and 12 seconds. That's what we're going to plug in there. And once that's completed, we're going to do another AI move to. And the reason we're doing that is when we start the game, we don't want to wait 5 to 12 seconds. We want them to start wandering around as soon as we start the game. And then every 5 to 12 seconds, we want them to pick up a new location. This will fire one time. This will fire every cycle and then randomly delay and apply that to our new wandering movement. So here's a real basic blueprint for you. Hopefully you can follow that along and get out there. Again, to create these, you would right click, you type in like event begin, and you'll see it filter this down for you. You would click on that and it would drop that in the world, and then you'd start dragging pins off and naming these other things. So pause the video, take a look at that, try and duplicate it. And again, the most important thing in here for the way that this is set up is that your radius value has to be enough of an area to specify where you want them to walk to. Smaller value is going to give them a tighter zone to look for a random spot in. So if you had a small, like a camp or whatever, and you wanted them kind of wander around inside of their camp, you'd pick a smaller radius based on whatever size you want there. I'm saying anywhere in the world that's navigable, you guys could randomly run around because I've only got a small level there. And then the other thing that's important is how long of a time you want them to wait between each of these things. So that's how this one's set up. Okay. Once we do that, we just save and compile, and we hit play. And now everybody's going to go move after a certain amount of time. They're going to randomly pick a spot, and they're going to go wandering off. Now he's NPC 3. He doesn't look like he's doing anything, does he? Oh, yeah, there you go. So he may have just randomly picked the same spot a couple times. But he finds a random spot, and he runs out there, and that's what they're all doing. So hopefully that helps you guys. Now, the most important thing with all of this is these guys will not move if you don't have a radius, like I mentioned earlier. And the second thing is if they don't have a Navmesh Bounds in the level, they don't know where they can walk. So to find this, you go over to your section over here and type in nav, and you'll find a thing called a Navmesh Bounds. You drag that out into the world, and then you specify its dimensions. In this case, I just did 20, 20, 20. And if you look at that overall, it's a pretty big area, you know. But what it does, if you want to see where it's at, I'll go back out to Navmesh Bounds volume real quick. If you're in the editor and you hit the P key, it will highlight green. And get back in there in the editor. If I hit P, it should highlight green all of the spots where your character can navigate. Okay? P toggles that. I'm going to go back to play and just let you see that how it just randomly wanders around. And then the other thing is that guy, see the guy that just ran over here real fast? So if I go back to him, that's NPC 3. To slow him down, we want to go to his character movement. You're going to slide this over, and right over here he's got max walk speed under character movement walking. You can turn this down. I'm going to give it to 200 and like maybe 50 if he was crouched. Compile, save, and when I go back out here and hit play, he'll now go a little bit slower. 200 might still be a little bit fast. You know, maybe he should be more like 50 or something. But again, these guys are just random. There's no real AI here. So hopefully that helps get you started with some random movement. And again, once you have this character duplicated out there and you start putting your AI on there, every one of the characters that gets created off of that will have the same AI. So again, you could copy this one, just say duplicate. It's going to be NPC 4. Double click on it, go in here to your viewport, get your mesh, go down here and pick another character. So whatever that guy is, and he's still going to use the same third-person animation blueprint class. Compile. I go out here. I'm just going to drag him out into the world. Hit play, and lo and behold, we've got another character randomly walking around in our level. Okay? That's how that all works. It's a way to get started with it. It's not the definitive end-all to animation and blueprints for AI. Again, my name's TC Mabe. I'm not a professional educator. I'm not someone who works for Unreal Engine. Just another person like you trying to navigate my way through the systems, and hopefully these little tutorials help. Thank you, and have a great day. Thanks for watching. If you like more, what you see, like, follow, and subscribe for more content.